Dr. Steve Green was an incredible mentor to me. And he taught me this thing about potential. He said, when somebody says to you, you have so much potential, he said, it's the biggest insult anybody could ever give you. And we all looked at him because we were in a team meeting, we're speaking on teams today. We all looked at him like, wait, what? Why would that be insulting? He said, because if somebody tells you that they have potential, what they're really saying is that you're not doing anything of worth. And so it became kind of an inside joke. Every time somebody messed up, they'd look at you and say, you have tremendous potential. But what they really meant was, you have so much intention. You have such a good heart, but you don't really do anything with that potential and that good heart. And when we look at 3 aspects, the most important aspects of what you should expect from your team, this is the most important, and I'm coming out swinging with this. The first point that we overlook most is that when you take on somebody as a team member, they should have a sword to lay at your feet. Now, what I mean about that is that they don't just have potential. They don't have potential to go into battle. They don't have potential with a prophetic gift or a teaching gift, but they have some kind of effort that's been put into that. They know how to use that sword. They're not saying to you, oh man, it just burns in me to go into ministry today. It'd be so great that if I could serve you, Apostle. It'd be so great to serve in this church, Pastor. I've got so much heart to bring you. Now it's true. David was a man after God's own heart. But David could also kill 2,000 Philistines. So can we have some balance? Because we're talking about apostolic teams here, not just volunteers. We're talking about people that are going to help you establish the work that God's given you. We're talking about your vision here. And the first thing you should look for is more than potential. You're looking for a sword that's been used. You're looking for someone that has something behind that sword and that intention. If they're coming to serve in your ministry, have they served in other ministries? Have they even had their own ministry? What capacity has God used them in? Do they have an anointing? This even reminds me of Prophet Rich Vera, when Benny Hinn brought him on board to serve even as a young man. Prophet Rich already had potential. And he had a sword. He was already functioning in the anointing. And as he functioned in the anointing, his spiritual father could position him at any place to be used of God. Now we're talking somebody that belongs in a team to do the very next point, which is drive your vision forward. I want to point you to Acts 15, 39 and 40. What's happening here is that there's a little bit of an argument that happens between Barnabas and Paul over John Mark. Barnabas wanted to bring them along. Paul's like, I don't think so. That's such a big fight about it. They split up. And what it says here in this passage is that Barnabas took Mark, but that Paul chose Silas. We see 2 apostles, each making a choice for their apostolic team. Why? Why was it so important that God brought this divide and that one took Mark and the other took Silas? Because of this one thing. Mark did not serve Paul's vision. Silas did. They were connected. They were in the same vein. Now, when you choose somebody to be part of your team, they've got to be able to drive your vision forward. And you know what that means? They shouldn't be serving 5 other visions. I'm going to say something very strong to you, and I promise you, if you're a leader, you've made this mistake. They don't see your ministry as a holding place or a place of transition. If you have somebody that has potential and a sword to bring you, and they come to your ministry, but they give off any vibes whatsoever that this is a holding place for them until they find something better, do not put them as part of your team. You will be sorely disappointed. I promise you. I had so many such experiences. And yeah, you could learn the hard way, or you could just learn from those who have gone before you a little bit. Don't make that mistake. So number 1, they should have a sword to bring and lay at your feet. Number 2, they should drive the vision forward with you. You should not be their stepping stone. Don't think that you can give them passion, give them vision, give them a place, and that you will win them over. And then after all is said and done, they'll want to serve your vision. If they don't come into the relationship ready and united to serve the vision with you, they're going to desert you like Mark did Paul. Why did Paul say, no, I'm done? Because he's like once bitten, twice shy. Mark dumped us when we needed him. I need someone who's not going to give up. And he found that in Silas, because when they were being whipped and beaten and put into jail, Silas didn't dump him. Silas sang with him in that prison cell. Silas was with him every step of the way, through his beatings, through his rejections. Silas stuck it through with him. Why? Because Silas drove Paul's vision forward. It was as much his vision. And how do I know that? Well, because when you read Paul's epistles, we see how Paul says, we write to you, referring to him and Silas. The me became a we, because Paul's vision was so Silas's vision, it began to knit together. Don't think you can convince somebody halfway through your vision that they should share it with you. If they're not already on board from the beginning, I promise you, you are in for terrible disappointment. The third necessity for picking your apostolic team is that they aren't afraid to sound a warning signal. I consider David and his mighty men. When there was trouble, they were not afraid to say to David, I know you're king, but do you really think that's a smart move? Because the enemy is mounting up here. Joab came to David a number of times to warn him of matters of the kingdom. And David listened to his advisors. The last thing that you need in your team is somebody who idolizes you, hero worships you, and watches you die. Okay? Oh, you're so wonderful while you're like legit bleeding out. And you're bleeding out, everything's going wrong, and then suddenly they've got like a world of advice. Like, yeah, saw that coming. I kind of felt there was something wrong with that person. And you're like, but why didn't you say anything? Well, I thought that you were just taking a different direction, and I didn't want to upset you. I wasn't sure if it was my mind. And I'm like, you're no good to me, warrior. You're no good to me, champion. Watching me bleed out, and then suddenly you got advice for me? No. You need leaders under you, leaders around you, alongside you, behind you, who aren't afraid to take the ram's horn and blast it if something's wrong. Because we can't see everything. That's why we need prophets at our backs. We can't see everything to the left and right. Every single one of us have a different territory, and we're not all knowing. You need team who are going to say, hey, I noticed this is going on in the ministry. But if they don't get your back, but they're quick to voice their opinions after you've been slaughtered, you need to reevaluate whether this is really somebody you need in your inner circle. I know I'm coming out swinging, and some of these things are harsh to some of you. But if you've been in leadership, you've made every single one of these mistakes, right? You picked somebody who had potential. You picked someone whose intention was right. They loved you. They loved your ministry. They really had a heart to serve, but they had nothing to contribute to your ministry at all. And they ended up, sorry to say it, being dead weight that you had to carry along with you. And then when other team members did come along with a sword, with potential, the first person that was there, they get all jealous and bitter because you're then investing into the champions who are getting the job done. You don't need that politic in your life, right? Just start with someone who has a sword to contribute. And secondly, they've got to drive your vision forward. If they are in 5 different ministry teams, don't make yours number 6. Please avoid that kind of punishment. And finally, they shouldn't be afraid to sound the warning blast if they see the enemy coming to your gates, whether it's someone that's speaking behind your back, whether it's a decision you've made that perhaps they're seeing something you didn't. It may even be a financial decision and they notice something that you didn't notice. Have they got the courage to let you know that, hey, I got your back, let's watch out? If you can tick all 3 of these off with every single member in your team, congratulations, you chose well. You're going to establish your mandate. And you can only go from glory to glory, like David did when he took the throne. Hey, he's mighty, man. Put his son on the throne. That's the kind of team you want at your back. Now, If you haven't already got my book, Rise of the Prophetic Champions, I teach teams how to work together. I've been doing this for 25 years. And it's time that we stop making the same mistakes. Pick the book up, study it with your team, and let's establish the kingdom together, okay? See you next Friday.